first of all, to thank you for letting me, for giving me the opportunity to come. And I do want to thank the voters of Luzerne County for basically a wonderful 10 years. It really has been tremendous. And to let them know that every day that I go to work, I know that I serve them, that that I am their servant, that they don't serve me. And that is a very important thing to keep in the back of your head. And anybody in any public office, but especially for our judges. And I also remember I'm just a gatekeeper. People come in and say, "Oh, what a beautiful office," and I say, I'm just gatekeeping. So for what I've been the co-administrator of the civil section for 2 years, and I've been the administrative judge of the civil section for the last 8 years. That's been my assignment, and it's been my pleasure. And I've had a full docket during that time. And I could tell you, I could go on. I have a few assignments, specialty assignments. One being my mortgage foreclosure program, diversionary program, and that was one which I was very happy and excited to get assigned because it was important to me, if possible, to bring the bank to the table, to bring homeowners to the table who wanted to be, and if possible, try to come up with a resolution. And it's not necessarily all size fits all, but when it works, it's something that benefits everyone. It's a win-win. We have the banks don't want to foreclose. They don't want another house in their portfolio to sell again. The homeowners want to keep their homes. Neighbors don't want blight in their neighborhoods. We want to keep people in their homes and our tax bases operational, and we want to keep children in their school districts. So, from Luzerne counties. So so that's been a good program. It's worked well. When we have a 50% success rate, which is an excellent success rate. Back in, I'll stop for, any questions. Back in August of 2018, I started a consumer debt diversionary program. 23% of the civil docket is consumer debt violence. So this is a national crisis, consumer debt. It's a Luzerne County crisis. And so I thought if we could bring the debtor and the creditor to the table, see if we could negotiate out a debt. We have credit counselors who I ask that the creditor goes to with the debt, see if we can come up with an action plan. They bring it to the creditor, and they try to work it out. Sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't, but it's a way to bring stakeholders to the table. And so far so good. We have a shout out to all of our pro bono lawyers, to North Penn Legal Services, to CEO, everyone that works at it works hard, and it works well.
What kind of numbers do you see with those programs? I mean, you said 50% success rate, but I mean, how many of those?
I should get those for you.
Is it dozens? Is it?
Oh no, it's more than dozens.
Okay.
Yeah, it's way more than dozens. So, and it depends. For example, during the pandemic, everything was stayed. Now, one of the changes I made during the pandemic, and I don't know how this is going to play out, because you do have to be flexible, is I added by administrative order small. No, it's always been residential properties where where homeowners live in them. I added small landlords with 10 units or less because of what's been happening with tenants and them not having to pay. That is gonna become a problem for our small landlords. And so I said, let's see, maybe they're gonna need the benefit of this program, and we'll stay tuned. But I have those numbers, but I don't have them with me.
I think it's in the law.
And one of the other things that I did when I got to the bench was our inactive cases hadn't been purged. I don't know if you're familiar with this at all, and if anything that you're not, just so inactive cases are cases that haven't had any activity for over 2 years. It had been approximately 14 years since those cases had been purged. We had 60,000 cases on our docket when I got there. At the end of 2019, we had 6,750. Now, that was simply a matter of clearing out the bramble. That's because we haven't done it in so long. But there is no way to be efficient and organized and planned properly without knowing what your active cases are. You just can't do it. So that was a challenge, but that took, every year we were able to finish, find out, these are the 200, we would send out to all of our inactive cases, are you still active? You want to proceed? Well, if you want to proceed, we would, let's say there was, and every year it's reduced because now we're caught up, but if we had 100 cases, those 100 cases I wouldn't just throw back into the system. All of the judges on the civil bench would get assigned those cases so that those cases wouldn't become inactive again. And that's important because that's the likelihood was that that's what would happen. And the other thing that we did is all tax assessment appeals, we put them into that were inactive. We said, look, do you want us to pursue, not us, but the tax, the Luzerne County resident who filed their appeal, are you pursuing this or aren't you? That was very important for Luzerne County, because you can't plan, you don't know what your tax base is. So anyway, so that was a big thing, and we've been doing it, and that takes all the judges, that's an all-in, because once every year we go, here's what everyone's assigned of our inactives, and they're not always the sexiest cases, but they are what they are.
Now you said you were administrator and co-administrator, how is that?
The co-administrators our first 2 years.
Last 8 you've been.
The last 8 years, they were like, all right, here you go.
You had the civil division then.
Yeah, right. Yes, primarily.
So the last, you came in 10 years ago, you talked about the backlog of cases, but obviously there was this whole question of corruption at the county courthouse and the kids for cash case. So how have you seen things change over those 10 years as you and your fellow judges have tried to kind of right the ship?
So that's a great way to put it. I mean, when we got there was a deep hurt and a deep mistrust. And when people would ask me about it when I ran, I would say, look, we're going to be the healers. And I think that was our goal and our job, and my job, to heal that pain. And while it's been 10 years, it's not gone. We know from what's happening right now. But I think with hard work and keeping an open door policy, which I have, and trying and just making sure it's not same old, that it's that we're light years away from 10 years ago.
Is there anything that, surprised you in the past 10 years, something that maybe you didn't expect when you ran for judge 10 years ago? About the workings of the court, or the workings of the county?
Well, someone told me before I got there, you're going to hear a lot of, this is the way we do things. And I said, well, I'm the type of person who will say, this is how we can do things, better. And systems are great. You need systems, but systems are for updating also. And we've been able to do that. And well, I think very well, and moving along,
You talked about, we've talked about diversionary programs here. We've had a couple of people running for retention already, and most of the time that focuses on criminal cases.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the first time we've ever heard about it in civil,
right,
which is kind of interesting. Are there any other areas in the civil world that maybe need diversionary programs, or these things you think need to be expanded?
No, I think these are the major ones, right, where I have, in the I'll call it the financial literacy area. So I think, because I keep a tight eye. Oh, I should say, I have, Commerce Court is something I've taken a look at. And it's something I've written, I'm a rules person, so I've written the rules, like how we would do it when we're ready for it. And that's something that is, I have a list of here's what we could do in the future. So it's on so I guess it's not really I don't know if I would call it a diversionary program, but I would say, this is something maybe we can consider.
And you said up Commerce Court?
Yeah, Commerce Court. They do it in some of the larger counties. Mm-hmm. We're not one of the larger counties, but that's why.
What does that involve?
Involves having two judges in civil deal with business disputes, and then any kind of special knowledge that might entail. Now, one of these other things that we did when I got there, in terms of efficiencies, cases were not individually assigned at all. They were, and so the cases went from judge to judge to judge within a case. So when I got there, we went immediately from on our complex cases, and that medical malpractice, maybe a complex trucking case, products liability, we went immediately to individual assignments so that a judge would get the case assigned right from the get-go. And then you get the case from the beginning, you set a scheduling order and a trial date right from the beginning. I'm a big believer that justice delayed is justice denied. And this way, and all motions went to that judge, and the judge could watch that case and make sure that when I got to the court, I had a case. When I first got my assignment, there'd be 12-year-old cases and worse. I said that can't be. That's not going to keep happening here. So one of the reasons when we went now to circle around to the inactives, knowing what our cases look like, we could all, in the beginning of January 2020, we went all individual assignments for all cases that came in. So kind of knowing that, 60,000, how can you go individual assignments? That's, that would just be, but with the less cases, we could all get assigned all cases that come in litigation, right from the beginning. And that's, so far, now you have to keep in mind, we started that January 2020, have a pandemic. And so, stay tuned on that. But I think, so hopefully, one thing, when we got there, every case, every lawsuit starts with a notice to defend. And one thing I did, and Judge Burke, I said to him, look, we have a growing Hispanic population, and we have a notice to defend, and it's not Spanish. So the very least we can do is, if we translate that, we can have our Spanish population or Hispanic population go to North Penn Legal Service and see what they're being sued about. Instead of just getting this docket, at least there'll be something there. So we did that, we did that the first year. We translated did that in Spanish and English. So that was, I think, a good change. So we've been busy. I hope you get, I'm a very, none of this, I said the civil is not, it's not the juicy part of the court system, but it's necessary. And we've been busy.
If you're retained, are there any other priorities you want to focus on in the next term?
Well, as I said, Commerce Court sort of on my back burner. I had a list. I thought I brought it with me, but apparently I must have left it back in chambers. I think if we continue on this path, it's a good path we're on. It's a good path. We're reconfiguring. As you know, we're putting more judges over at family court, which I think we needed to do. And since that's being reconfigured, we have one less judge in civil court, but we're having less responsibilities for PFAs, which take up an inordinate amount of time, as they well should. So I don't know how that's going to balance out next year, but I don't know how that'll balance out.
How is the size of the court? Is there any recommendation to add a judge to the overall judiciary?
Maybe courtrooms. Courtrooms we could use. Because it's, because courtrooms.
Because I think about 10 years ago, there were a small number of judges and a lot strong reliance on senior judges.
Oh, right. Well, when I first got there, they had 7 judges. And that was, and now we're down a judge with Judge Amesbury's retirement, and and Judge Rogers is, needs help over in family court. So I have to spend some of my time doing family court to make sure that people get their justice. And I'm mindful of that is an extremely important assignment. So civil, we all have pitched in over, which is what we do. It's a really nice, let me say this, it's a great group that I work with over there, and we pitch in every place when we have to, all of us. It's very nice. Yeah, that's lovely. By the way, I will miss Judge Burke. He is a top pitcher inner, and he will be well missed. He was a wonderful mentor, really.
And you mentioned there were 60,000 cases. That was the entire civil docket?
But it wasn't.
What's that?
I mean, it was, but it really wasn't, because these cases had just been enacted.
Right. Yeah. What year was that? Did you have that many officially listed?
2011, 2012 when I got there. I think we don't have like a separate judgment index. That's one thing that's on my list now that when you say that, because so we've been e-filing since 2012. So we can pull up our judgments by through part of that, the e-filing system. But we don't have a separate index if you want to go look at judgments. So I don't know how we can do that better, but I just think that there should be a better way. So I'm just trying to figure it out. I am accidentally the tech judge because when I first got to the courthouse, Judge Burke needed someone to write the rule on e-filing because you needed a local rule. Oh, I should also say the other project that we did, or that, and I will tell you, I spearheaded it with a big, and everyone in this whole civil bench worked on this project. Our local rules hadn't been updated, I'm going to say, in 30 years. A huge, massive overhaul. So if there might have been a set of rules at the pathonetary office, at the court admin's office, and in different judges' offices, but they wouldn't necessarily all be the same set of rules. So I gathered all the rules and then drafted it, and then heavy edit. Which is sometimes harder than the original, and we have we have a new set of rules as of April 2017, which have now been modified again, and they're up on our website, which is the Luzerne County website. But we've been, so that was another project to get done, and. So one thing we did during the pandemic, and I would guess Judge Vogt spoke to you about this, is our communication technology. If he hasn't, then I don't want to speak to something that's already been spoken to, but that was something that we have in the courtroom now, the ability to make sure that we keep people safe, which is great, and also we can Zoom to, I had an expert in a medical malpractice case from out in Oregon. And they were there on a big screen, and the jury could hear the doctor fine. And that's the challenge. Things are moving fast. And to make sure that so to make sure our jurors and can hear, and our technology is good. So these are exciting times, there's no doubt, and I'm excited to be part of it, and very it's been like I said, it's been a wonderful 10 years, and I'm really thrilled to have been lucky enough to have gotten one of these seats, and I know that it's good fortune. What is it? You're smarter to be lucky than you're lucky to be smart. but I think a little bit, But I think hopefully I've been smart too a little bit, and a little bit lucky, but also, but I will never ever betray the trust. To go back to your question, I would never betray the trust that the Luzerne County voters have placed in me. It would go against every fiber of my being.
Are you using any video or Zoom technology for status conferences or hearings where the lawyers don't have to appear in the courtroom?
Well, so that's, right now, almost all of my hearings are by telephone or Zoom. Because it's still, if it's not necessary to bring extra people in. Any kind of evidentiary hearing, we have to do live. But for example, the Attorney General's office doesn't like their people out if not necessary, the civil division, so They ask if they could come by Zoom, if everyone's okay, and, you know, there's no reason not to let them come by Zoom. So those are usually,
Is that something you would see lasting post-pandemic?
yes. These are here. The genie is out of the bottle. It is here to stay. There is no doubt. I had one case where the lawyers wanted to argue their motions in limine in person. The other person didn't. We did it by hybrid. And I think as long as the judge has to be flexible, I think, and I think that my colleagues are. I've heard all kinds of ways that everyone is doing it, but the flexibility, I think, is the key.
I think one of the reasons why the civil docket traditionally doesn't move as fast is it's always trying to accommodate lawyers' schedules, and if you can do more things through Zoom, perhaps you can speed that process along.
Right, but the interesting thing about the individual assignments is that, that's lawyer, not before individual assignments, it's lawyer driven, right? Individual assignments are more judge driven, the notion of it, but of course, we have certain, let's for example, the medical malpractice. There's only certain lawyers that do that. And if you want them, if I want them, and all of our judges want them, and the judges in Lackawanna County want them, then we all have to negotiate sometimes. I've called up lawyers in other judges in other counties and say, he says he's on your list for 2 weeks. Is he on your list for 2 weeks? Is that really going to be a 1-week trial? Because, you know, there may be 4 lawyers and we need 3 of them, and that one lawyer. So, you know, you have to, so that's, the scheduling. I have said in the past that being a judge is, it's like playing chess 3-dimensionally for scheduling purposes, for getting the schedule. But that's not, that shouldn't be the hardest part, but it's not an easy part either.
Can you talk a little bit about the campaign? Obviously, a retention campaign is different than what you went through 10 years ago. Are you raising money? Are you going to events? Or are you coordinating with your other 5 fellow judges who are up for retention?
I'm not raising money. I didn't raise the money. I didn't take money from lawyers. I shouldn't. And I'm not raising money this time. I'm going to events, and that's what I'm doing. Oh, we coordinated a few things, but not everything, but a few things. I'm very comfortable with this group, with my 5 other colleagues. They're a wonderful group. They're a wonderful group. So I have no. I'm very, like I said, very lucky.
You had mentioned the 50% success rate regarding the credit dispute program.
No, with my mortgage foreclosure program.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. So it just focuses on mortgage foreclosures, but you did say you added
I added my consumer debt diversionary program in August of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to say what the percentages are on that. I have them, but not at the tip of my tongue.
Okay.
But if you participate, they're reasonable.
So when you say 50% success rate for the mortgage program, that basically you've come to a settlement in 50% of the cases that
Right.
you try to bargain.
Yeah, and the thing is, the interesting thing too is that when you participate in the program, and even if it's not successful, I find that people have a little bit of peace because they feel like they've done everything they can. I mean, people have said to me, thank you, and I say, I'm sorry, but I can't there's nothing more we can do for you. And they say, but you did everything you could. Oh my God. But of the houses that enter the program, so that's a program where the mortgage the mortgage or the homeowner chooses to enter the program. So.
Regarding your administrative role in the civil division there, are you involved in jury selection, the rules for jury selection at all?
No.
Do you see any, it seems like the jury selection process is something that perhaps could be streamlined and made more efficient. You go over to the courthouse when it's like a jury selection day and you see lots of people wandering around with stickers on their...
Well, we have made some changes, pandemic changes, that I think are working better on the civil side. I don't want to speak to the criminal side. So on the civil side, and this is like, just making sure that you don't do the same old, same old. On the civil side, for the pandemic, because of the pandemic, we just get panels for the case. So instead of getting a panel of 200, 250, and then using them for every case that's up that week, we'll just get a panel of 45, 60, whatever the number might be. Because what we don't want to do is, we want to make sure that there's unfortunately, any COVID issues, it's just limited to that group. But we're finding that if the case resolves, there's no need to bring in that group. So now, in terms of efficiency, we're only calling X amount for that case, and then if that case resolves, that group doesn't come in. So efficient so that we're keeping that system in place post-pandemic, because it's better. So is that, that's just something we noticed, and so I guess I don't know. I don't know if that's, I wouldn't call that, my genius, but I would say that that's the system. We looked and we were, oh wow, why didn't we do this before? But it's working. So. But I think there's always going to be a little bit of that in the courthouse. And anything else I can answer for you?
You guys have any other questions?